That's why these trades, I call them sweet trades. It's when you really want to get in, and I do get in. I know that many people also use Bollinger as a kind of coordinate system. Here, the AI is literally giving me hints based on my entries.
You basically gave us a guide on how to pass a prop challenge, just like you did.
Yeah, pretty much. I feel like trading is exactly the kind of channel that's easy to scale. I looked at the report they gave after finishing the challenge. It's exactly what I was aiming for in my dashboard.
Whoa, what is this? What's with the Sphinx? Andrey, what would you have liked me to ask you at the very beginning?
I don't know. Actually, I've only been on interviews a few times, so it all depends on the topic. But if we're talking about here, then probably about trading, like how I got into it.
How much was your first payout at Upscale?
Around $100, something like $180.
And the second one?
The second one, well, it was like $1,600 or, $1,700, something like that.
How much have you withdrawn from Upscale?
It comes out to about $1,900.
Well, let's get to know you a bit then. Where do you hail from? What you mean? How are you? What do you do?
I'm Andrey, actually. I'm 29 years old and I'm in business. I do sales, marketing, and, well, I trade as well.
What surprises the people around you the most?
You'd have to ask them, but generally, I think it's about stability or consistency, something like that.
While running a business?
Well, yeah.
So, look, you're saying that you run a business. Plus, I know you've done marketing. How did trading even come into the picture? What happened in your life that made you decide, that's it, trading is my life, it's in my blood, I can't do without it?
Well, it's like in business. I mean, in business, for a project or product to take off, right, and really start gaining momentum, you need to find a sales channel that is, first of all, understandable, simple, and secondly, scalable. If you apply that same logic to trading, well, that's exactly how I got into it. I feel like trading is that very channel that's easy to scale. It's understandable and actually simple in the sense that it's quite linear, right? I mean, your progression is linear. That's exactly why it hooked me. I decided that I would develop myself here.
Overall, I actually agree with you for one simple reason. There's a quote from one of the traders that trading is the most boring job in the world.
Yeah, that's true. It's a very routine thing.
You came in with such a hook, saying that trading, if you project it onto life, is like a sales channel and so on. Maybe we should, record that marketing interview after all?
Yeah, that's something we could think about too. I'm glad to talk about Guy. I can riff on pretty much any day.
So, our dear viewers, if you want Andrey to record an interview about marketing, leave a like, write a comment, and subscribe. Yeah, it'll be some off-topic marketing from a trader. Wonderful. All right, so we've learned why trading attracted you. But sometimes, or rather often, actually always, expectations don't match reality. Could you immerse us in the reality of your trading, how it all went, and what it led you to?
I think the story is much more trivial than that. I mean, at first, I just somehow realized that it wasn't something that would allow me to fulfill all my dreams right away, since I actually started my journey with binary options. And there, it really quickly shattered all those naive dreams that you could just click here and there and, make a lot of money. So pretty quickly I arrived at, an academic approach, or at least that's how it seems to me. And that's why, actually, I'm still sticking with it to this day.
Could you elaborate on what you mean by an academic approach?
Well, first and foremost, it's when you're completely in a routine, meaning you don't have any emotions, you don't have any, room for maneuver in your actions. You know exactly what you're waiting for. You're like a fisherman, or a detective when you're watching the chart. Yeah, exactly. You just definitely know the sequence of actions. Like right now it's biting, right? Like now you set the hook and so on. I mean, I'm not a fisherman myself. I just throw around terms like that. Whoa, that cat is nearby again.
Show us.
You probably won't want to. Come here, Billy.
Whoa!
That's what it looks like.
What kind of sphinx is that?
That's not a sphinx. That's an Oriota. Yeah, and he's actually very talkative, curious, and clingy.
That is.
And actually, I'm saying that it started to look a lot like some kind of like a detective or a fisherman. When you're just watching and you know exactly what should be there, what clues there should be for you to make an entry. That's why I'm saying that it's probably more academic.
So what I know about the timeline right now is binary options, academic approach. And what's next?
Again, I'll come back to business. I'll turn specifically to this allegory. When we are developing something in business, it could be anything, not just, say, a sales channel and so on. You have to track metrics. That is, if you track them, then you control them. What you don't track, accordingly, you don't control. And in business, these can be various metrics that, the product is chosen as key ones, like retention or anything at all, really, or activations. And accordingly, in trading, it's the same thing. What you track is what you control. That's why I first entered all of this into an Excel spreadsheet. And when I started mastering AI, I made myself a dashboard that allows me to track a lot of things that, in my opinion, are important. Well, of course, it's overloaded, among other things, and it turns out that I control these aspects, and I'm striving towards this to control as much as possible and, accordingly, be able to influence it.
Could you show us that dashboard then?
Yes, it's here. It's, well, in a test version, meaning it's finished, but still, some parts of it will need to be removed, and some, I think, definitely added. But among the main features, I really like looking at, actually. What really resonates with me and what I've liked recently is the improvement tips. So here the AI is basically giving me suggestions based on my inputs on what could be done better, right? Here I track trading sessions, meaning which specific trading session yielded the best result. Seasonal analytics. These are only the trades from last month, so it doesn't have like the beginning of summer hypothetically, and this month I'm going to develop it, keep it updated, and so there will be other seasons here as well. 10 roles. I don't know actually how much they help me, this specific feature. I just built it to see how it would affect my trades, accounting, researcher, and so on. There is a formula for each of these personas, and accordingly, on a scale from 0 to 100, it tells me how good I am at this. In self-discipline, accordingly, I have 0 out of 10.
Well, and in general, you also have some issues with disciplinary control.
Yeah. I mean, well, right here it actually highlights what's critical and what's not. But it allows you, at least, to understand in the moment where to put more effort or attention. And accordingly, analytics on assets, on types of errors. And at the bottom, there's a very small diary. So accordingly, there's a comment here for each trade as well. So actually, the dashboard itself looks like this in a dark color. Maybe that's also worth changing. It's kind of gloomy now that I look at it, and I would be happy to see some of the functions move from here into the Upscale analytics.
Oh, I'm curious. You showed your trading diary there, and there were comments. Is there any funny comment in there?
Well, for example, the trade with Ton. Got lucky catching the impulse on low volume. There are just these kinds of trades. I call them sweet trades. That's what I really want to enter, and so I enter. Usually they end in failure, of course. And even if it's positive, like here, I still categorize it with an overtrade tag or some kind of error because I want to avoid them.
Before Upscale, did you trade in other prop firms? And how was that experience for you overall?
There were just a few other prop firms. I remember for sure there was a prop firm with Forex, and a little pepper on the avatar. Actually, the experience there was rather negative because I traded for about a month, blew the account. I don't even remember what exactly I didn't like. I just kind of moved away from that idea, like profit sharing, and I got more into DEXs.
So why did you decide to return to Upscale?
Here, I was really struck by Telegram, specifically the integration and the great decentralization. I mean, I'm still a devoted religious fan of decentralization. Upscale has that same story, where you don't have to go through those courses, those verifications. You can just get capital and trade with it for coins.
For our viewers, I'll remind you that you can also click the first link in the description to go to Upscale and see what it's all about. Well, and naturally, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Let's see what you've actually come up with over these 10 years.
Where should I start? I really like the idea of indicator-free trading. I mean, I try to use it first and foremost as a kind of foundation, but I still use indicators, for example, as a sort of field, a kind of coordinate system. Yes, for example, moving averages allow you to understand roughly what kind of market we are moving in right now. I mean, well, either an uptrend, a downtrend, or consolidation. It could be anything. I know that many people also use Bollinger Bands as such a coordinate system. So we don't build a system around an indicator, but rather use the indicator as part of the system. And accordingly, for me, it's also these moving averages. I've been working with them for a very long time, and I really like them. So here they are, just specifically a history that shows what kind of market we're in. This is probably the coordinate system that you should start a strategy with. What else do I have? I have RSI. Yeah, it's right here. I think it's just a standard one, but it's highlighted, so when the overall trend is upward, the little thing also turns green. Well, 50. And accordingly, it doesn't matter. You can use the most default one. I also use it to look for divergence. Plus, there's some indicator connected here that's called, well, actually, it provides moving averages and highlights divergence based on different indicators. I'll do one more interesting thing, probably.
Oh, something new.
This is back when I was just getting into Upscale. I was trading from a demo account at first, I think, on some small accounts, and I was trying, putting it all together. Here, it all looks pretty structured. So I look at the trend, right? I determine the trend using the 50 and 100 moving averages plus RSI on the higher time frame. Meaning, for example, we switch to 15 minutes. Hypothetically, if we want to quickly close a few stages, I trade on small time frames. So that's 15 minutes. If it's 5, then we switch to 15, take that as the higher time frame, and find the trend there. Yes, on the 15, accordingly, the moving averages, well, here they are going into some kind of sideways movement. But in general, if they were directed upwards, it would be a really good setup. I would already be looking at this moment more like a detective or, say, a fisherman. And accordingly, then we look for a divergence in the direction of the trend and make sure that the RSI is showing strength. This means that it should cross the 50 line from bottom to top. Something should appear here, some kind of price action setup. So I'm like a devoted fan, for example, of James 16. If anyone used to trade Forex back in the day, there was this ancient site called Forex Factory, and James 16 was this guy who would enter trades with 10, 50 lots on Forex, and also built a very, very large school of devoted fans like me. Something from James 16 from his school could perhaps serve as a signal. Or, well, something more trivial, standard, like some pin bars. Well, in general, everything you know about price action can be applied here. You can really go wild with it. The ultimate signal point here, after all, is volume. And for the signal to be confirmed, the next candle after the close would be, well, in this case, higher, if we are looking for an upward movement. Essentially, that's what the trading strategy consists of. We look at the trend, we look for price strength, for momentum in the RSI, we look for divergences, and we look for a price action signal.
When I was listening to you, I liked everything a lot, but I want to latch on to one phrase of yours. I'm a fan of indicator-free trading. I'm looking at our chart right now, but this doesn't look like indicator-free trading.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's just that I've loaded it up right now to show what I'm doing, specifically to complete challenges and past stages. It's a story about simple price movement. Yes, here on such time frames, whether it's 5 minutes or 15 minutes, price action works a bit worse, in my opinion, or maybe I just can't get it to work. When trading prop firms specifically, I use indicators like volume and momentum and, accordingly, divergence. They're the ones that really track the state of the price, let's say, on such small time frames. But if we're going to trade, say, on the 4-hour time frame and higher, or even probably the daily and higher, then I don't use any indicators at all here because the trends are clearer, well, they hold up better for me, and accordingly, the signals that the price gives, just by its movement, by price action itself, they're also more reliable and consequently easier for me to understand. So if we were analyzing larger time frames and trading specifically on DEXs rather than prop firms, well, they would only be, support and resistance lines, and that's it.
So it just dawned on me, you basically gave us a guide on how to pass a prop firm challenge, the way you did it.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, the only thing is, at the end of the day, it's not the strategy that makes you profitable. You make the strategy profitable. So even if you liked something, some tools or parts of my approach, or the whole approach, I still advise you to rethink it. And take the things that really resonate with you and still tweak them to fit your own style. Well, no matter how much I've tried, there's a huge number of traders from the past, future, and present who will show phenomenal results. Or they've already shown them and faded into the background, and they share them for free, absolutely for free. I mean, take the stochastic, George Lane or Bollinger, Bill Williams, James 16, they all give away their approaches for free. And at the same time, they have proven evidence that they just made millions of dollars. Except for them, no one else can replicate it. Or maybe just a few.
Look, you showed us a guide. And now, how about some social proof that you can actually get results thanks to this guide? Let's go to Upscale and take a look at your certificates.
Right, this is already the second payout from the $25,000 account. The first payout was $135, and 2 weeks later, here's another $1,800.
I see a red dot on the $25,000 account. What happened?
I think we can even, check the history. It was just, some FOMO situation with some obvious mistakes on my part when I got carried away. I think it was the weekend. Yeah, I don't really like trading on weekends. And so for some reason, I decided that this particular weekend would be the one where I should do it. Yeah.
Classic.
Yeah. Basically, I successfully blew the account. But I don't even know how else to comment on this because I was already ready to get the 100,000 account. Unfortunately, on Upscale, you can't merge accounts or grow them in any way. So I was like, damn, there's no trade copier. so that if I were to get a 100,000 account, I could trade on one account and have it just copy over to the second one. For some reason, when I, realized for sure that I was going to get the 100,000 account, I already understood in my head that, okay, I need to give up the 25,000 one. And, I don't know, I was just already sure then that I wouldn't be trading it. And it just so happened that I successfully blew it within 2 days.
How are you ready to comment on this?
How the Sharpe ratio dropped significantly from 4 down to, exactly 0.5. That happened over this weekend. Everything else is also correct. It's just that most of the trades I make, when the profit reaches an RR of 1, I move them to break even. And the average profit is very close to the average loss. But in reality, I try to close at least at 1 to 2, 1 to 3.
Look, by the way, Andrey, do you see that orange bull at the bottom there, right? See the orange button?
Can you click it yourself? I don't think that was there before. Did they just add it?
Whoa.
Okay. Daily drawdown, yeah. Wait. Well, listen, I'm not that strong in English, but from what I understood, yeah, actually quite a lot of it is pretty close to the truth. I looked at the report they gave after the challenge was finished. So basically, the AI report, and that's probably what I was aiming for in my dashboard. Exactly. That kind of critique with precise, indications of where I'm wrong, where I need to be better and grow. So this is a really cool thing, a cool feature.
Look, we're looking at your account right now. We see another 100,000 one. You've probably done some work on your mistakes. What would you recommend to those traders who are already trading on Upscale, or those who want to start using the link in the description?
I probably don't have the right to give any recommendations because, first of all, I don't consider myself some kind of authority or a super successful trader. My journey with prop firms is still too short. But overall, what I think is pretty universal is that you definitely need to pay attention to your statistics and make sure, like what happened to me this weekend, that all your entries are trackable and clearly controlled. I recommend looking at the analytics section as much as possible and keeping some kind of records that specifically help you trade. Well, for example, I think a trading journal is also a great thing to have. I know a fairly successful trader who, in his trade logs, in his journal, dedicates the largest section to his emotional state. I mean, he writes in great detail about what emotional state he was in when he entered a trade, and he even breaks it down into different cohorts. So I advise you to measure whatever it is that helps you trade.
Why do you need a 100,000 challenge?
That's an amount I've never had under management before, even though in reality it's actually a 10,001, right? Because the drawdown's 10,000.
But the profit is on the full 100.
The profit is on the 100. Yes, that's important. You're right. And accordingly, trying to manage 100,000 is a new challenge for me, a new experience, and above all, some kind of financial, psychological financial barrier.
The most interesting thing is you had 10 years of trading experience before prop firms, and I think you can give yourself a full account of where you find it more interesting to trade, at prop firms or on your personal deposit.
Yeah, look, it's easy to say 10 years of trading. I wasn't in the market for those entire 10 years. From the moment I first got acquainted with it until today, 10 years have passed. But I've only been in the markets, if we're talking net time, for, a few years. Let's say 4 years. That's what it would add up to in total. Of course, I don't really care. Like I said, I'm a devoted fan of decentralization. It's more convenient to trade specifically on DEXs. And if it turns out to be implemented in such a way that, for example, Upscale, since I like it and I trade on it, starts launching on DEXs and the account belongs directly to the trader from the start, that's really, I think, where the prop industry as a whole is heading. I also mentioned some example companies in a past interview that are already doing this. If it eventually comes to that, including with Upscale, I'm ready to stay here for a very, very long time because I still really like it when the account belongs to me while I still remain on a DEX and it's somehow more familiar and comfortable to trade there.
How do you handle stress while trading? Revenge trading, FOMO, all that kind of stuff.
Well, listen, that's really painful on personal accounts, including, on DEXs. Before the $100,000 account, I treated them more like a search for an optimal, kind of story about finding an approach, right? To the possibility of making friends with the risks that a prop firm offers, with the opportunities that a prop firm offers, and some kind of individual strategy for myself. Here, I'm more just on the path to figuring out how to handle them and finally develop something that will allow me to consistently make money from a prop firm and not blow accounts. I just like to go for walks. I mean, when you have some kind of loss or gain, it doesn't matter. From a trade, even a gain probably hits your psychology harder. You just need to go out, walk like 8,000, 10,000 steps, do something outside, and only then come back to trading.
Do you have any friends you've told about prop farms?
I don't think so. I haven't told anyone about prop firms. I'm keeping this money-making secret to myself. Sonia, I've also talked a lot with my friends about trading, including trading on DEXs and prediction platforms.
You haven't told your friends, but imagine that your friends are watching you right now and asking you, Andrewka, I want to take a challenge. What should I definitely pay attention to?
That it's a well-considered, thoughtful decision and not under some kind of pressure, like, say, you needing money somewhere right now. First and foremost, pay attention to that. And if you agree with everything here and essentially have worked all that through, then, of course, take the challenge.
You had a few payouts. First one was small, the second one was big. Can you describe the emotions you felt when those payouts hit your wallet? Maybe something clicked in your head or you started perceiving things differently?
Listen, these payouts, any of these payouts, I think they're small. I'm sure that's a small payout. I guess the one that was $1,800, let's say, for me, for my deposit, that's usually well above average from DEXs. Well, I usually withdraw smaller amounts, like no more than $1,500 a month. The emotions I felt specifically from the prop firm, it was like, wow, because I used a very small part of my capital, right, to actually get a payout like that. So that is definitely cool, and that's exactly why I decided to take the 100,000 next. And there weren't any super wow emotions, really. That's probably because I'm 29 now. I've lived a little bit. If I had received a payout like that at 20, I probably would have just been blown away with happiness. It didn't, knock me off balance or conversely make me overconfident, which would be even worse. I was just amazed that you can actually get good payouts from a very small portion of capital.
Does it make sense for me to ask? The question, what did you decide to spend the withdrawn funds on?
Well, for some reason, I still have this idea stuck in my head from when I was like 16 or 17 about wanting to retire early at 32. So I still try to set aside the majority of my capital. I try to come up with something to do with it, to do something, to use it effectively somehow. So actually, most of it went right there, and a part was spent on the 100,000.
So, if it's not a secret, where did that $1,000 go? Like, I don't know, a savings account, bonds?
Specifically, this hasn't gone anywhere yet because I review my portfolio every quarter. Yeah, and right now, at the end of August, there's gonna be another review like that.
So, look, you just said that. You could say you belong to the FIRE generation who, want to retire early.
Well, that's what I wanted. Again, going back to the past, when I was even younger than I am now, that was, yes, a dream, a beacon. But at a certain age, I went through and am still going through the realization that, well, actually, it's cooler to have some kind of business or something, a project that you want to work on even after retirement.
A final thought from you. Maybe you want to show us how your cat can talk? Or, I don't know, show us a drawing from your childhood.
Well, the thought I mentioned at the beginning, you absolutely need to measure a lot of things in your life in order to control them. And that's not just about trading, it's about everything. Everything you have. Sleep, I don't know, some kind of physical activity, your emotions. Try to measure as many things as possible. Start small. For example, with sleep, measure your sleep, how you slept, whether it was effective. And that is truly something that will greatly improve your life. It's, a kind of lever. I mean, there's the law of the lever, right? Applying force disproportionately. If we apply this specifically to the idea of measurements, it will disproportionately and significantly improve your life if you start measuring and controlling things.
So, on that wonderful note, I'll encourage our viewers not to forget to measure the number of likes on the video and the number of subscribers. Subscribe, leave comments. I'm Igor Fox, and this is Andrey.
It was a pleasure to have you all here. I hope it was useful.
See you at the top.